Alright, I'll probably upload this to both sources, even though, yeah, I could just link it over, but I don't know. First off, YouTube's been really screwy with my last two videos. It chops off the end, no matter where I stop it. I don't know why. It's frustrating. Um, Secondly, um, when I went to sign up for this, your site here that you got going, I don't even know what name you're going by now. Anarcho-Squirrelist or Stodels. um, I found the question that was asked to create your profile very interesting because it said, which would you prefer, anarchy, or no, I'm sorry, monarchy or democracy? Monarchy or democracy? Hmm. It's an interesting question, isn't it, when you're only faced with those two? Um, would you prefer mob rule or single person, dictator type rule? And, I gave it a little bit of thought, and it didn't take much thought for me. And I chose monarchy. And that's a funny thing for an anarchist to choose, isn't it? Especially when a lot of traditional anarchism would be based on democracy, and you hear a lot of democracy in the rhetoric of like the social anarchists. Not that I have anything against that per se, on a small scale in an anarchistic situation. My problem is when you're talking about running a country that way, or a state that way, rather. Um, there was a reason I think that monarchy lasted for so long, uh, and that's because it's not that there's an incentive for the ruler or despot to do good to his people. It's that doing good to his people is more likely to come about from one person rather than a majority or you know a consensus, even almost even worse when you're talking about that many people, because you're talking about mob rule when you talk about a consensus. um, it the majority of people aren't, like I've talked about in the last few days, they're not. This was the problem with the French Revolution when they finally did away with the monarchs. They don't realize what true freedom is. um, we try as anarchists to make it our job to educate them to that, but I mean, they don't want to hear it. Most of them don't want to hear it. My wife didn't want to hear it. My ex-wife. A lot of people don't want to hear it and they don't understand it. To most people in modern times, politics is all about, people. I saw in one thing I was watching, it said, people aren't interested in politics. They're interested in politicians, which is an entirely different matter altogether. And that's what we have today. I mean, you can see this now, this past week. All this obsession over this one guy, and that's politics? What? I mean, politics is, the very word, the very connotation of the word is supposed to be, um, not, I don't want to say striving for power rather, but striving to make, not a name for yourself, but to make a system by which things work, by which a framework by which people can organize their lives and have a society that works. And if you have a top-down framework anyway, Now, I'm not saying that a top-down framework is best. Obviously, it's not. I don't think it's not anyway. I'm an anarchist. But if you have one, and you've got choice between top-down framework A, one person says it and everyone does it, and top-down framework B, where people are coerced into doing things. Majority of people are coerced into believing some crap, whatever that may be. Coerced into doing some decision or another, making some choice or another. No matter how fabricated that choice is. I don't see how what would be called like a benevolent dictatorship or benevolent democracy, or I mean benevolent monarchy would work. It seems to me like that would be much more ideal. In fact, not just much more. I mean, that's the ideal to me. Is a benevolent dictatorship. And of course, by benevolent, I mean, it actually does the right things. Of course, we've never seen that, certainly in the past 200 years. Before that, it's arguable, but probably never in history have we really ever seen it, honest to God. Maybe some of, the English monarchs, but a lot of that I think is kind of tied up in, a lot of nostalgia and romantic ideals. Um, so yeah, if it, to me comes down to a choice between people being people being manipulated and people at least knowing what they're getting, I'm going to choose the latter. um, because the first is so susceptible to uh, the 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 tendencies of people to stray. It's too susceptible to the mob. Like I said, it's too susceptible to to people just stringing along with whatever idea. And I'm not just talking about electing a president or whatever, or electing X politician to do it like we have. Talking about an actual democracy where the democracy is where just whatever the mob says goes. Um, I'd much prefer a single person rule, and keeping in mind that that person is at least trying to keep the best interests of the state, the country, whatever, in mind. Um, and I'd call that it's been called before too, a benevolent monarchy or benevolent dictatorship. And I'd much prefer that to an out of control democracy, which is susceptible to so much, so much. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know. Might make more videos on this site. I'll see. I've been having a lot of ideas recently, so yeah.